This is the Bizz Talk Business Indaba, and my name is Sinazo January. I want to say thank you for joining us right now, and we are coming to you live at the Mendi Arts Center. Now we're going to have a discussion with a very interesting panel. I've got a very interesting panel here today who will discuss various issues that we're facing in the Nelson Mandela Bay, where the business sector is concerned. But today, basically, this event is to inspire, motivate, and support entrepreneurs and business owners across different industries. The aim is to create a networking environment and platform where business owners and entrepreneurs can learn from successful business leaders and from fellow entrepreneurs, so we can contribute to the development of the business sector in the Nelson Mandela Bay. Now, with that being said, I want my panel to take the opportunity to introduce themselves and tell you who they are. So if we can just start, thank you once again, guys, for joining me today. But if we can just start from Siabulela and then move it down to you, Mhleli. And if you can just introduce yourself and let everyone know what you do.
Thanks, Mazo, and thanks for inviting me. Greetings to everyone watching. My name is Siabulela Zondan. I'm the regional manager of the National Youth Development Agency in the Eastern Cape. And we basically run programs that are aimed at developing young people, advocating and lobbying for their interests. And so we then hand those over at a time when that particular program is mature enough to custodians who can take it forward and scale it up and provide additional funding for it to run.
Thank you and welcome. And to you, Butsia.
Hi, Snazo, and thank you for the opportunity. The name is Siabulela Mandla. I'm the founder of a company called 469 Enterprising. The company really is all about the township economy space. It's something I'm quite passionate about. So we use the business to really explore the opportunities in the township, from retail to events, entertainment, to product development, really. But I'm also an industrialist, because I come from an engineering background where I run a company called Rhino Manufacturing, which is basically a manufacturing space in the plastic industry. But predominantly of my interest here is also talk about waste, because we convert plastic waste stream into pellet, which is raw material, which we then use to manufacture finished products that are get to be utilized within different sectors of the economy.
Thank you, Butsia, and welcome.
Thank you.
And to you, ma'am.
Hello, Sinazo. Thank you so much for having me. I am Mandisa Mapotwaza. I'm the founder of a company called Molomami Relations, which focuses on the PR and marketing within the tourism and hospitality space, with a focus on growing awareness within the domestic market and also providing support, particularly to SMMEs within township and rural spaces. I'm also the chapter chairperson of the Eastern Cape chapter of the South African Tourism Services Association, which is a national tourism association that represents private sector businesses within tourism, ranging across the entire spectrum of the tourism value chain.
Thank you, Mandisa. And to you, Chair.
No, thank you so much. My name is Mutsumfeni. I'm linked to the channel as the board chairperson. And in my other capacities, I part of an investment unit called Bizz Investments, which is invested in technology, infrastructure, corporate events, ICT, and with my wife, we brought the distribution rights for this part of the world for my course. You probably noticed that almost everybody, 80% of people who have a course of merchandise, they got it through us. We got those rights from Indaba and them. And I'm from Zwede. I think that's very important for people to know. I'm from Zwede Township. I never went to any fancy school. I brought up by a domestic worker. And all these things really have shaped me and got me to be invited by you.
Thank you, Chair.
I want to always put that in my introduction.
Thank you, Chair. And to you, Mhleli.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Mhleli Halom from Apenyu Bright. The company I run is Mibono. We do furniture for homes, for offices, shop fitting as well. And another company that I run is Raw Native Creatives. We transfer skills for unemployed youth programs, and also we work with primary schools as well to transfer skills and
Thank you.
entrepreneurship as well in leadership.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And well, that is my panel for today. But once again, I'd like to say welcome to each and every single one of you who are tuned in right now, who are watching this special here today. But we're about to get started with our discussion. But before we do, there is an interesting article that I came across, which I think or thought was interesting, that I would like to start off with. So I'm going to read it, and then we are going to talk a little bit about that. So here it goes. As an estimated 17% of South Africa's total unemployment is through the informal sector, or so-called township economy, in a country with unemployment rate over 32%, the informal sector is a lifeline to countless families who lack formal employment. It's also one of the hardest hit by COVID-19 lockdowns. While informal businesses typically do not contribute directly to fiscus through taxes, they provide livelihoods, employment, and income for approximately 2.5 million workers. That represents roughly 17% of total employment. In a country like South Africa with staggeringly high unemployment and a low labor absorption rate, the informal sector is essential. It keeps many vulnerable households above the poverty line. What can be done to support the sector? Now, before we do get started, I would like to know from you, maybe Butsia, if you can just firstly tell us what the informal sector is, so we can get that out of the way. According to you and your own perspective, can you just explain to us what the informal sector is, as well as the township economy?
Look, I mean, I can give you a textbook scenario of what the informal sector means, but I think predominantly, if you look at the economic structure in South Africa, everybody seems to know exactly what the informal sector is. And it's predominantly located in the township and rural space. So that's really in a nutshell. I don't need to give it a fancy definition, but it's a sector that is quite vibrant. As you probably would know, if you go to the township, it's a survivalist business in actual case, if you have to define it in that essence. So it's predominantly in the township. It's survivalist. People actually enter the space, sometimes not because they are great entrepreneurs. They enter the space because it's a means to survive. But there is a great opportunity in that space because people can migrate from just being a survivalist entrepreneur. They can learn the critical skills that they need to learn within the space. Then they can transition from that into some sort of a formal enterprise. And I think that's something that we've been advocating for quite some time. I mean, I run business in the township. And just to give you a bit of background, when I started my business in the township, I ran a car wash. And one of the reasons we wanted to run a car wash, because it's a known business in the township. It doesn't require skill or much critical skill. I didn't have to have a CEO. I didn't have to have a skilled manager. But the important thing is that we knew that there was a market and we wanted to start. And we started it. And because of that, we ran it so well. We got accolades. We won the SAP Kickstart. We won the SEDA business, a small business competition. We won the National Gazelles program that was initiated by the Small Business Development, because we wanted to demonstrate that if there is the right support for small and emerging entrepreneurs, there is a great opportunity that these people can actually turn into great entrepreneurs. So in essence, for me, the informal market is predominantly located in the township space, in rural areas, and it is what constitutes the bulk of economic activity in this country. It might not be in rand value, but in terms of activity, that's what it is.
I love that you raised the point of you started your business without that skill, but you understood your market and you knew your market.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that, Chair. because I know how much you pride yourself in the fact that you come from Ezwide in the township. But one would say that most entrepreneurs, especially in the township, tend to start businesses and they fail, and there's nothing wrong with failing, and they start over again. But most businesses get started and then only to find along the line they shut down because they bankrupt. What do you think? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's a lack of skill or entrepreneurs not understanding their market per se? I don't know what your thought is around that.
So recently, I was involved in a conversation with the father of a business partner of mine, a very prominent business guy. So he says to us, "Chaps, I see you're having something going on, and I wish you all the best. Don't be discouraged. You know, at CIPC, I'm probably registered to companies, over 87 companies," he says to us.
Yeah.
And he says to us, you know, out of the 87 companies that were registered at CIPC, only 7 made it through. You know, and it's the nature of the beast that whether you are a small size business or a big size business, you've got many that will go away. I mean, I was reading the other day about Process, the company that owns Naspers,
Yes.
Multitrust,
Yes.
DSTV. I mean, they've done some serious blunders trying to get into the e-commerce market. They've lost serious money. So whether it's a guy that started a car wash that did not work,
Okay.
or it's a guy that bought a mining a business, did not work, it's just the nature of the game that when you get into business, you've got others that are going to start and go well. You've got others that are going to, not succeed at all. But there are things, though, that we can do to cushion the number of companies that do not succeed. And it's good that you have someone here from NYDA.
Yes, yes.
Very, very important. Because one of the things that, I'm in technology and I try to understand why do guys that get out of university, done BCom science, develop apps, but they don't succeed. But
Okay, Chair, I'm sorry. Can we just link to an ad break and then let's carry on with this conversation? But because of television purpose, I'm going to link to an ad break and then you guys will join us right after this. So let's take a quick ad break while we carry on with the conversation. Do stay tuned. Yes, Chair, you can carry on.
So you get that black guy, white guy, NMU, Wits, or Stellenbosch, same qualification. But the black guy business does not succeed because there is generally a support problem.
Yes.
Generally for black business. The major problem, I think, is how we approach the whole issue of accessing capital to start the business. If you're going to go to a third party to access the capital, it's normally a very tedious and problematic problem. It actually starts with yourself. And I often say to people, never undermine the power of you not being on the credit bureau if you want to start a business, because when there is a due diligence done, yourself as a director, you're going to be tested if you are able to manage credit.
Yes.
Before people give credit to your company,
Yeah.
because you are the proxy of your company in the main, you are the one responsible for it. What I find that, generally speaking, with my exposure in big business, is that areas such as the Eastern Cape, if you go to the easier route, which is public sector funding, is that you have less chances to succeed.
Yes.
Because there are not many of these instruments that government has put into place to support local businesses. Historically, this area has been largely with CEDA and ECDC, historically. Then later, NYDA came into the picture, and ITC has been around, but ITC is dealing with bigger capital investment. So the guy that wants to start a car wash and stuff like that, he doesn't have access to that. So he probably has a huge pile of applications that with the allocations he's got, he cannot make. So that's one problem.
Yes.
But the one for me that seems to have then reduced the rate of not succeeding is the initiatives done by private sector, such as the SA Brewery Kickstart program. For me, it seems to be the initiatives done by private sector are the
Yes,
ones that are
yes.
able to bring people forward. Now, what government has done with the Enterprise Development Program, through DTIC, has now helped companies to make sure that they bring SMMEs on their databases so that they can procure from them. So that is the one thing. But I still do say, though, that maybe you've got many SMMEs from the township, like myself, who started without funding.
Yes. Yes.
So it means that if now I have 10 Rand, I must now decide the 5 Rand in today's language is going to go to data, the other 5 Rand is going to contribute towards my vision, right? And I find that that approach of having personal initiatives to fund what you do is helpful. But it depends at the same time to the sector.
Yes.
Because if you're in the
Yes.
technical sector, that's not going to work. But if you're in the services sector, that's an easy thing to do, like maybe starting a tourism information business that you can do with your own car,
Absolutely.
take people around, So that's really the
Yeah.
issue. Now, hopefully that I've covered you.
Yes, yes. Mandisa, any views on what Chair has spoken about?
Well, I can speak about my own experience.
Yes,
Also
yes,
being from
please.
Motherwell, my business is based in Motherwell. And starting a business after retrenchment during lockdown, I'm very new to the game, and using the resources at hand. My laptop, fiddling with the data dongle, and really my own car to try and make that work. But I must say, one thing that I feel is imperative is the ingredients of tenacity and what drives us within the township space,
Yes.
the township economy space. Because when you're in that position and you have to start without capital, the passion, the vision, and as Chair said, the support is vital. So there's that ingredient, that human ingredient that I've identified even in successful business that is missing. Supporting each other. And I don't know if it's a matter of not understanding the market, but perhaps also our township space is not understanding that supporting businesses within the township helps the township in general.
Yes.
It's not about supporting Umazbani and Umazbani is
Yes.
going to get rich with her family, because Umazbani is going to make that money and come back and go buy bread at the spaza shop. We need to create those circular economies. So that human element, that human ingredient, when it comes to support, when it comes to pushing yourself and understanding the reason you're pushing yourself, I've experienced as being one of the things that have really driven me and brought me that my business is still here today. Getting the support that I need from people around me and getting the support that I need from industry colleagues, and actually getting people bringing me business and supporting me because they understand what it is, what it means to support this young woman from the township, from Motherwell, that's actually taking this initiative.
I love that. I love everything that you just said. But with Siabulela, let's come to you. Let's speak about government involvement. What is your take, and what would you say that entrepreneurs? What is it that entrepreneurs are getting wrong in terms of starting a business and then not being able to sustain their business, or maybe they even say government doesn't really assist them enough. They're not getting enough assistance from government. What are your views on that?
Sure. So government just generally is supposed to play an enabling role.
Yes.
Creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. And so from that point of view, you find that government tries to drive these initiatives through programs of business support, either financial and or non-financial. Now, we've got hits and misses as government, and because of the changing environment, it becomes very difficult to predict what's going to happen next. No one predicted in 2015 that we really are now, especially as it relates to the pandemic. So I go back to some of the points mentioned earlier about the attributes of the particular person who started the business. From where we're sitting, we found that even as a young person walks into our doors and we sit down with them and provide advisory services, there are certain traits we can already pick up as it relates to the tenacity and the survivalist nature of a young person. And we're able to say, just as a team, that that young person is going to go far. Even if they've got absolutely nothing. That's one thing. Secondly, ordinarily, funding or business support follows those who've already started in.
Yeah.
So we found that a young person was able to mobilize resources, no matter
Yeah.
how little they are.
Yeah.
And they've done something. They've scribbled something, they've got invoice books, they've got something
Yeah.
going. And you think to yourself, all this person perhaps needs is seed capital to start their business. Unfortunately, the model of the NYD as it currently stands actually services informal businesses. Because we know that informal businesses are mostly described or at least characterized by the fact that they are not registered
Yes.
on CIPC.
Yes.
Right? And some of them don't need to. Let's be very honest. We know that DT has taken through many people through high school.
Correct.
Many people through
University.
They've taken through many young people through university.
Yes.
And so this informal sector is there for a reason. It thrives because of how vibrant it is. And because it actually stays true to its character.
Yeah.
So what we provide is a capped funding of about 10,000 rand for young people to start those particular businesses, depending on what their business needs are. And we found that they are able to actually graduate through the system far more than those who start or register businesses without much track record, without much initiative, and then fail. So we're finding that over time, those who have actually started their businesses as informal survivors are able to graduate through the system and provide and get and qualify for more funding, more support through our systems, as opposed to many of those who start out as a registered company. So it's a mixed bag. And I
Yes.
think, for instance, my question becomes, in 2021, how do we support a resilient business? Because that's what the pandemic has taught us, that you need a business that can survive level 5, level 4 lockdowns. How do you create that? Which sectors do you look into? How do we as government create support systems or stimulus packages for the tourism sector industry? When we know that level 4 or level 4 lockdown perhaps is coming.
Yeah,
How then
yeah.
do you prevent that downfall of all those businesses? How do we create that cushion that Chair spoke about? So it's a double-edged sword for me.
Yes.
We need to be far more. Sometimes we caught flat-footed, and that is a reality. But we need to learn from those lessons. We need to bounce back and actually also have a vision for what we're trying to do.
Yes.
As an organization, for instance, with our programs, we review them every single year because that's the nature of the beast. You have to really sit down and say, this is what we're doing actually has an impact. And we engage and we debate about those things. Then we come up with new programs. Then we start the year again and we engage young people as well. So in the space of young people, very vibrant, very robust. And so sometimes you come out on the other end bruised and battered. But it's for the better, it's for the better good.
I love that you mentioned that. I think we also need to acknowledge that assistance is there. It's just a matter of people going out and seeking the assistance and also using their resources, no matter how limited they may be. But let's take a quick ad break for television purposes. But our conversation still carries on. Now, clearly, as an entrepreneur, of course, in the Nelson Mandela Bay, I think we've had this conversation before, but about accountability. Young entrepreneurs tend to focus on or tend to want government assistance. But what about doing their part? So what are your views on young entrepreneurs doing their part, touching on the resilience that Uputiabulela also spoke about?
Firstly, I would like to say thank you to NYDA. I remember, I think it was 2015, that's year when I met you. I went to them, I knocked, and I told them, this is what I do, and I need your assistance. And I remember they approximately gave me 25,000. And that was actually my first machinery. So we used to borrow machinery, but when I went to them, they were able to support me. And today I'm still standing, and I never went back simply because I don't like handouts. So if you support me once, I want to prove it to you that I can double this or triple whatever the case might be. To answer you, I feel like as entrepreneurs, we are so entitled. We often don't do our part in terms of educating ourselves, learning, developing all the time, in terms of knowing the markets, in terms of navigating the opportunities, because that's what I did. I made sure that I educate myself, I go to programs, I graduate from programs, not only attending, but making sure that I'm defining my leadership role
Yeah.
in terms of running the business, in terms of making sure that the information that I get, I also transferred it to our younger entrepreneurs who wants to start or who already started the business. So I feel like if we, as young entrepreneurs, can learn to make sure that we do our part before point fingers. I'm not saying we
Yes.
don't need support, we do.
Yeah.
I need it now as we speak. For example, I had to go to intra-trade fair with nothing. I needed cash as in immediately. Putsia will tell you, I knocked so many doors and some never responded, but I don't blame them. It is my problem. I knocked because I thought they would help. They didn't, so be it. But anyway, I made do with what I had and I was able to go there. And for us, it was a success because we wanted to revive the business, to reintroduce the business to the market. And what we found is that the market, international market, really loved what we did,
Yes.
as opposed to people from, let's say, locally. They sometimes they don't see the vision. Sometimes they take it for granted because you come from New Brighton and Isuka. But people who really appreciate what you do, they're able to identify and actually say, and as a result of that, we're able to export to Ghana. And there are a lot of orders that we are supposed to send through to Ghana as well, because we made do with what we had, not just complaining and folding our hands.
The one thing that's going through my mind, I read a book called Capitalist Nigger, and I remember reading a chapter in there saying that with Jews in their communities, their money circulates at least 8 times amongst them. And I wondered, what makes us so different? Why would we rather go spend money elsewhere and not let our money generate and circulate amongst our communities? And it was just something so interesting to me because I'm still trying to understand, how do we now bridge that gap?
What we do, circulate money amongst ourselves.
Do we, Chair?
Yes.
I would like to disagree because I think Umdu would rather go support. I don't think we support each other.
Can I explain myself?
Okay.
I think as Black people, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves
Okay.
and not measure it with the reality that we are in. Let me explain the we do part.
Okay.
Let's say, what are the informal businesses that are in the township? Salon? Kamatala?
Yes.
Kamakwinya? The taverns? There are no white people going there with buses to buy from those people. It's us. When I live here, I'm going to go here, Kwaputzola. I'm going to buy there something, and then because we have my suburbs,
Okay.
it's a delicacy, Planning just to come here, my car is dirty. I plan that it's going to be washed here. No, we do. The only difference, though, is that the township economy,
Yes.
our economy,
Yes.
right? It's like what President Dekle said. We've got 2 economies, one established, one emerging.
Yes.
Our economy is still emerging. So in other words, we do not have too many people that I can go to and say, I want to sort out my investment.
Yes.
I'm now 50, I'm sorting out my last stages of my life. Can you be the brokerage for me? Instead of going to the established ones.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The other problem we have is that if I say to my good friend seated there, right? Vuzo, Vuzo, let's go and have a good dinner tonight. I say, nah,
Yes.
you see, it's our environment, right?
Yes.
So we do a lot of things that we support to each other. And that money circulating is exactly what you said earlier on. The Amakunyas that took people to varsity, the Imitungo Yelokwe, Elokshini Taylor, I used to take my shoes enjoyably to be sorted. These things, guys, are still happening.
Absolutely.
Maybe because we cross the national road, we get a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do it at the level where we do it. I don't on TV, I don't want to give advertising to the big brands that sit in the big commercial spaces, right?
Yeah.
Where we confuse this statement for is that I expect Sia to come to me and give me 100,000 and then he gets from him and from her. Then he says he gets support from business, from a black business person. It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
I often get young people to message to me, I want to start to share sanyama. I know those mobile things that they do. So I asked them, okay, so how much is this thing? So it's 20,000 rand. So I said, okay, so how much do you need from me? So it is 20,000 rand. So I said, then that's most is my business. You must bring your own risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they see me not doing it, then they're gonna go on Facebook and say, black people don't support each other. Bring your own risk, because what happens, you think you're gonna take this thing, sell it, and people don't buy it, you take that thing, it's back, go in, you never use it. Who's really lost? It's me. Because I loaned you 20,000 right now, you can't bring it back. So people define this black can support each other in that narrow context. What we should be worried about, though, is this. The formal economies in the township are now being taken by big franchises.
Yes.
Just the other day, there was a big joke in Zweden that there's a KFC, there's a Boxer. I mean, Zweden is probably the last township to come into the formal retail market or FMCG market. That's what it should be yours. It should be mine.
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
with me?
Yes.
So I must go to Uspakamutsi. That's now we're getting into the formal one,
Yes.
right? Then we have, think about it. Why are there no second-hand car dealerships in the township?
Wow.
Kutheni zonke imoto futhi sozithenga eDasi nakwezindawo? Are you with me? So
Yes,
we must
yes.
go. So that's where now government must then come and help us with rezoning, with securing the land,
Yes.
right? And then maybe give us some incentives from the municipal rates and all those sort of things. Climb some discounted periods where you don't pay the same rates for your business. So actually, my point is that we do, and I thought I tried to. Guys, maybe I'm too simplistic about it.
I just want to add, it's there's so much to talk about. I
Yes.
don't think we've got the time because I just listened to the conversation and there's a lot to mention. I mean, the support structure for me is a problem. It's uncoordinated. I think that's where we start. But Mute, you're saying exactly what is on my mind. I'm very concerned about the emergence of the big retailers, the franchises, because it creates an impression that they are not capable entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I mean, I'm from the township and I'm using the car wash thing because it's a simple thing that anybody can run. I'm not involved in the car wash now. I'm there. I support it. I run a big manufacturing factory.
Yes.
So I'm an engineer. I'm an MBA graduate. So
Yes.
because I wanted to demonstrate that we can actually transform informal business and it becomes semi-formal, and hopefully we can create a brand that we can plug anywhere else. But there's a lot of fundamental flaws when it comes to the township economy.
Yes.
My biggest problem is that people talk about it because it's a literature issue. It's a big word, but the support structure is not there properly. It's uncoordinated. You go to government, you're looking for a piece of land, you want to expand. That's the challenge I'm sitting with. I'm saying, I don't need money from you. I want to create a retail space that we can give opportunity to local entrepreneurs and of course their brands. But they will send me from pillar to poster because there's nobody who is willing to say, this is what you need to do. So the channeling of information is uncoordinated. We've got
Yes.
departments of economic development that sits there, but you do not know who to talk to. So to me, that's the fundamental issue. And the second issue is that I know, Putmutsu, you've tried this thing of conversations in the township.
Yes.
Because that's another leg that is missing. Because we should be talking here and say, what are the opportunities in the township? I've got the venue somewhere. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want to get accused of marketing. But we're sitting with the problem of waste. People dump there. But where I'm sitting, because I'm also doing recycling, plastic is a commodity, right? The people are dumping it, but that thing is worth millions and millions. But and we've gone to the municipality or whoever they are, and we say, look, we want to educate people about plastic waste because we're buying waste all over the country, right? But we want to create what we call these centers in the
Buyback
township,
centers.
buyback centers, where they can coordinate and bring the waste. They either get money or coupons or whatever the case might be. But at the moment, the waste is a problem in the township, and it's part of the deterrent when it comes to business, right? Because I sit with the problem there, and every time I invite people to come in, it's always a very bad situation to see, you know, because there's plastic all over the case. But if people could know that, just like bottles and all other commodities, plastic is a commodity, and plastic gets to be repurposed, recycled, and it gets to be used, as I said to you, that we make irrigation pipe that is used by the farmers to secure transformation of water into the farms, which is critical in food security. We do construction film that is used to build buildings. So the same waste that, you know, you've used, you bought something from Pick and Pay or whatever, you throw it away.
Sorry,
It's-
sorry, can I just link to an ad break quickly before television purposes while we carry on with the
Thank you.
conversation? Let's take another quick ad break, and then when we do return, we still have more right here at the Mendy Arts Center.
Thank you. I mean, it just really got me boiling, because I feel that where we need to start, you know, we've got a whole vibrant, youthful. I mean, it pains me to see these young people, all around the streets. We should have a platform really where we talk about this thing. We talk about opportunities in the township. What are the opportunities? Because everybody else who comes to the township makes it. Except the entrepreneurs that actually live in this township.
Yes.
Their lifespan in running a business in the township is very short.
Yes.
We've seen this thing. But how is it that everybody who comes to the township is able to establish themselves and to be able to be agile and run and be successful? And yet the entrepreneurs in the township, they struggle. What is the issue? What are the opportunities there? What is the support structure? Here we see is correct. You know, there's a lot of dynamics we need to take into account.
Yes,
but for me, the fundamental issue, the structure is incorrect.
I love that. Okay, do you have
Yes,
something to add?
I would love to add on to what Butsia is saying. You touched on a point where you said there's lack of planning. It's hard to take advantages of opportunities when you don't know what the opportunities are, and you don't know where this opportunity will lead you. I so wish that I could sit in an Imbizo, for example, and have the municipality present to me a realistic plan for a township. Bati Jonga, Motherwell, in the next 5 years, these are the goals.
Yeah.
We plan to build this, we plan to build this, we plan to do this. In that, we would need potentially a restaurant over there, we would need a game center over there, we would need something over there. As a young person with an agile mind and some ambition, it's easy for me to identify, in Motherwell, Urino is going to bring in a certain factory and they need this waste and this is what they do. For example, the information that you've just shared is so powerful.
Yes.
I can then as a young person think, I do want a business. Maybe I mustn't be doing this. Maybe I must buy a truck and start collecting all this waste.
Yes.
So if there was a plan that we knew we can work towards, we're facing the same thing in tourism. We speak about rural tourism. The United Nations World Tourism Organization's theme is inclusive growth. The focus for 2020 was rural tourism. It is our focus as well in South Africa. And then we say, like, what is it that we want to achieve with rural tourism? I work with products, I work with associations, and we say, okay, we want to get you registered, but if there's more people coming into the in rural areas as tourists, what does that mean? Does that mean the rural areas become developed? Does that mean we have more retailers in the rural areas, more hotels? Then what is going to be rural about it? If we don't start with the end in mind, we don't have a way to work. And I feel that it's not that young people is looking, do not have a vision to abafunu banes businesses, abafunu tini, but sometimes the pie is so small. Not everyone who's not everyone who and if we're going to grow the pie and have more representation in terms of the types of businesses as Koya's Lokshini, funeka sigalele eliweni esibona ba okay siyayibona ba izawuyaphi izawugcwala lento. Because kunzima uyolenga on the edge thinking I'm just doing this because I'm praying. I mean, there is no other marketing and PR agency in Motherwell. Right? My customers are outside of Motherwell, but I'm going to do it because I'm going to create future PR executives in that Motherwell.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We're introducing a whole new space to play in. And I know that I sit in spaces where I can influence the plans for tourism when it comes to Motherwell. So Ndayazbana, I'm pouring into a bucket. What buckets are we presenting for Abanda Basha to pour into?
Those are amazing facts. But Siyabulela, I just want to find out from you, speaking about the structures that Uputsia raised and mentioned, what do you think needs to be done? Like, what do you think, how do you think the government can go about to deal with those issues and challenges and the loopholes that people speak about and complain about all the time, and which also makes them not even realize the opportunities that they have access to? So what are your views on that?
I think I echo the sentiments of my colleagues in the panel in that we definitely need better planning, coordination of information, and also provision of reliable information
Yes.
to people. Maybe I'll say young people from where I'm saying.
Yes.
Because we find that young people come across a lot of information online, some of it's fake news, and at that point they become very discouraged going forward.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't experience us as government in a very good way. The experience of government is not what it should be.
Yes.
They enter our premises and then they don't experience us in a good service delivery fashion, and that discourages young people as well. I mean, you look at the stats for unemployment, you find that it's not really that people necessarily are unemployed. Many of them are actually running businesses.
Yes.
Many of them are actually active in their spaces. It's sometimes an issue of underemployment necessarily as opposed to unemployment or almost entirely. So I think for me, it's planning, coordination, and reliable access to information.
That's very important. That's very, very important. But I want to speak about mentorship. Chair, I know that's one thing that you're also very passionate about, which is mentorship. But how do we go about to bridge the gap between small business owners and well-established entrepreneurs, such as yourself, who've made it? And obviously, you guys come from a different era.
That's a compliment.
You guys, I mean, you come from. I can only imagine that you guys come from a different era where things weren't as bad as they are now in terms of where young entrepreneurs can come into spaces and be afforded those opportunities and have access to all those resources. So what are your views and takes on that?
No, look, I think I'm going to practicalize it.
Okay.
If you look at a typical township family, it's a family household that's led by a woman. And in some instances, uglomama. A male figure is an uncle who's unemployed or works at a factory somewhere in Costin, Uha, or some other part of Nelson Mandela Bay. And in the township, there's families that are trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Some of my schoolmates hang around because they didn't get money to continue with their studies, although they passed well in grade 12. So generally, for us to do real economic transformation, right, we must create the mentorship structures. And it has to be a generational mission. It has to be something that I consciously do as a person to contribute into a prosperous South Africa, right? It has to be, you have to be intentional about it. You have to be deliberate about it. All you need to do in the process is to sift the abuse of your time, right? You get a lot of people that inbox you for mentorship thing. Ukobanolona is just looking for Facebook photos with you. There's funny things that happen to inbox. Others, they just have to get close to you. Mostly, I used to tease my friends and say, hey, these requests to mentor our sisters, we must now save them because it's not the mentoring that you want. So we've got to be deliberate about it. Because many of us are product of mentorship. Funny thing, yesterday I was watching, my kids always correct me when I call his name. You guys know Virgil Abloh?
Yes.
Virgil Abloh, I'm big on Virgil Abloh. I think him passing away, Virgil Abloh is the menswear designer for Louis Vuitton, right? And his background is just in Kanye West. It's just a very interesting story. And if you look at guys like Virgil, they will tell you that central to their success is mentorship. But that mentorship is driven by, we see a spark in your eye, then you catch our attention. Ne? Not the spark because you sing Sia doing it, now you want to do it to beat Sia. You know what I mean? So you've got a fire in your bones.
Yeah.
You know, and it attracts us, you know. I mean, most of the guys that I've met, have, it's guys that I've seen, you know, those Ubuntu Educational Trust in Sweden,
Yeah.
they used to take us to schools. I've met guys up in UL. Those guys are married, they've got TV shows.
Yeah.
I just saw fire in their poses. You know, after something like this, we go and have tea, and then you want to talk to the guy from the Q&A.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want to talk to the guy. That guy went to NMU. We pushed him to be in the SASCO in that context, and SRC. He became an activist, he became a leader, because we knew that some of the things to help people, to groom them for life leadership, is going to come either through church, either through a community forum, or either through a political organization. You've got to get involved because the mentor itself does not have the package deal of your success.
Absolutely.
Right? So we do all this sort of thing. So I see a lot of black guys like me who are doing it, by the way, and ladies who are doing girl child programs, who are doing all these sort of programs. But others, they think that mentorship is us sitting every Friday. No. It's a friendship.
Yes. Yes.
Like I was talking to some guy mentoring, I told him, I got this one that you post on Facebook does not talk to where you're going.
Sorry, Jay, let's just link to another quick ad break. Let's take another quick ad break and we'll be back right after this.
You see?
Check.
Because they think mentorship is formal. Because look, sorry, I'm now your friend, I'm mentoring you, or you post something untoward on Facebook, I will tell you. No, but I think you must delete that.
That conscience.
Think about it. Think about it 3 years down the road. I think you'll regret that post.
Yeah.
That's mentorship, you know, because I've realized that people don't buy your business, they buy you, the jockey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ukuma umuntu oposta into ezibhoxayo ko-Facebook unezinto ezinjalo kaloku also a reputational risk to all of us people
Absolutely.
that are associated with you.
Yeah.
Love that.
He's got
Is there
that-
something?
It's similar to what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You sit down with a young entrepreneur, you can really see the fire in their eyes,
Yes.
and you know exactly where this person is going.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you being part of their journey,
Yeah.
enabling them to
Yes.
get to where they want.
Yes.
It's not a matter of that NYD would find the person and they become. No. It's an enabling tool. They come to us, they give us a plan, a vision, they sell it to us.
Yeah.
And you see it in their eyes, which this person is quite clear about where they're going. I know Mhle, the same thing. He was invited to an event with Uvu sitting the choir and he produced, remember Mhle? He produced that piece of furniture. And I knew then that is God.
Yeah.
You know, so that was because the testimony of his work,
Yes.
his hard work. And when
Yes.
you look at his profile, you look at his social media, it's all about Umsebenzi wakhe.
There you go.
Yes,
You know,
it is.
He is clear. He is directed. He's got a singular vision to where he's going.
And
so,
he's very
and it's
intentional.
comforting as an administrator in government when you find young people like that.
Yes.
Because then you know that taxpayers' money has gone to a good cause.
Yes.
And that you're going to get return on that investment.
Yes.
Because it's an investment. We're not dishing out funding that's coming from a vacuum. This is taxpayers' money.
Yes.
And we need to safeguard it. And so we need to be able to take our boxes and say, in as much as we know that young people in general and as per perception are high risk, we need to be able to say we're going to back this young person
Yes.
regardless of his balance sheet. We're going to back him. And so that's what it
There you
becomes.
go.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I actually asked him to be here today, because I feel like Umseli, he works. He knocks down those doors and he makes sure that he gets his work done. So that's another thing that I want to speak about, because he's also passionate about, giving back to the community and youth development. But take us through your journey and where youth development is. Why do you think that is so important to you as an individual and as a young entrepreneur to go into the townships and make that difference and, make change into these communities?
Firstly, for me, it's a passion. I've been mentored. I've got so many mentors as well. And the difference is that I know why I would come to you. I know the gap that he needs to fill. I don't just go to him because I want him to be my mentor. I think that's another problem. I think young people need to identify, why are you coming to me? Do you want me to fill the gap for financial, whatever the case might be? But to speak about Raw Native Creatives, what we do, I'm the managing director there and the co-founder. So we teach skills because we want them to be able to do things for themselves.
Yes.
And we don't just end there, we register businesses for them. And not only end there, they can always come to me and ask because I've been down the road. I started from nothing, worked outside my yard, not even a garage, outside. So I know exactly what it takes when you start, and I would really love it to be a chain, actually, because we work with primary schools as well, and they don't get lost. They're also in the system as well because we
Yes.
want them to grow with us. We want them to continue to do the same thing, to empower other people. Because you look at the New Brighton, for example, or the township in general,
Yeah.
you like Utatu Zolayeye, they come from the township. There are so many other people that came from township, and this township has potential. It's just that we are so influenced by the things that are going on and distracted, partying all the time. Nothing wrong with that, but we lose focus. So we decided to actually focus on the younger ones and the ones that we see that has potential and they want to make it. Hence, actually, next year we decided to have a school because now we want them to pay, but not much, so that we can see that they are actually invested in this as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes people, when they get things for free, like for example, the experience we got than the previous project we did, we found that they were so entitled, number one, and ungrateful. And was like, I was shocked because I thought we did everything we could to make
Yes.
sure that they are
Yeah.
lifted and they get equipment and stuff. Other programs don't do that. They
Yes.
just give you a skill and then leave you be, and then you can't move because you don't have such things. So going forward, we will do that more, and I would like it to be a chain. Every young person, you graduated, make sure you have 2 or 3 people that you make sure that they graduate, for example. Doesn't really have to be business, but you know, that's what we want.
All right. Yeah, you are okay, but someday I'll let you tell your story, because you've got a very interesting story and all that you've achieved as well. But right now, I want to speak about established entrepreneurs, or business owners taking up space and not allowing, uh, young entrepreneurs into those spaces and get that opportunity. For example, let me make an example. Chair, we are in the same sector, we do the same thing. And you then, I mean, you are established, you're fine.
It's a
And
good compliment today.
and here I am, I'm a young entrepreneur, we're in the same sector, in the same industry. Why not give the opportunity to me and or I don't know, because I feel like this is the one thing that young entrepreneurs always complain about, that, you know what, I think established business owners don't give opportunities to the younger entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I want to speak about that. What are your thoughts about that, Chair? Let's start with you.
So we're in the same sector.
Yes.
I suppose you're talking television now.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So let's take Mboma Kapa TV, just one simple practical example.
Okay.
The content that you see in our screen, only 40% or so of it is produced in-house. The majority of that content is owned by young Black people who are producing content for the channel. That's that. That's that one part. Because it's important that you use a strategic asset like that to contribute to a pool of filmmakers,
Yes,
content
yes.
creators, producers. But in the process, there is talent, as you often refer to it at the channel. There are skills, there are opportunities. Just the other day, I was watching Cutting Edge on TV last week. They were doing a docu, typical Eastern Cape docus on Cutting Edge. So this guy is writing there that, geez, I saw everyone, Cutting Edge. When Cutting Edge is on air, Facebook goes crazy.
Yes.
And it's Eastern Cape
Yes,
this and that.
yes.
But the guy that's posting this thing that is saying, yo, I'm a video editor for this, Tonight Show and stuff like that. So I literally forgotten about who this guy is. Probably he's gained some weight, he's earning more money, looks much more polished or aromated, as you often call it. And I said to him, geez, well done, keep up the good work. He responds by saying, thanks to you. I'm like, what does it mean now? So the first reaction I do, I go to his gallery to check who is this guy. Then I realized that he's a product of the channel. I employed him in a company I run called Digital Media as a camera operator.
Okay.
He then writes his whole life story about why he's saying thanks to me.
Yeah.
So it's heartwarming stories like that where they hit you when you have not expected them, almost like a principal meeting somebody at the mall and say, Meneer, I'm so and so. Remember me, thank you for making me do maths. I'm now a doctor or I'm an entrepreneur. So these are things that we do. We do it exactly the same way we mentor. It's our generational mission.
Yes,
I
yes.
often say to people, those of us who have an opportunity to be in the first 30 years of democracy have a mission and a responsibility
Yeah.
to contribute to being custodians of it. You don't have to be a politician to do it. You don't have to be a name from the struggle to do it. My family, no one comes from the struggle. I come from a very church family background, Adventist, Nochal, who have a chilled approach to politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of us must do something, and we do these things because we've got to look beyond. So we must create opportunities.
Yes.
What we must further do, though, which bothers me, and I want to raise this thing before I forget. I asked some young people the other day. So firstly, let me take a step back. So the president, I got an invite to go with the president to Cote d'Ivoire last week. The president was doing West Africa last
Yes,
week.
yes.
So I declined the invite because I'm worried about COVID, right? So I write letters to apologize that I can't make it. So a young person is in that trip. So I say to this young person before the trip, what are your thoughts about metaverse? You know metaverse?
No.
Do you know anything about metaverse?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause I was
She will
about to
explain
say-
to you what
Oh,
metaverse
okay,
is,
okay,
right?
okay.
Because what we must be doing now, we must not, as we open doors only for the now issues. What is the world going to look like in 2030, in 2035?
Yeah.
These are realities that we used to laugh at when you're watching Star Trek and Matrix. These things have become realities that life has now changed. When we talked about apps, people were still talking about building websites.
Yes.
And we said this thing is moving into your phone now completely. But guys were still occupied about being web developers. We've got to look at the trend and start preparing ourselves for that trend. So what is going to be township economy in 2030, 2035, right? I think that people will be used to ordering debonaires from Sweden. How am I preparing myself into that e-commerce space? Yes, now there are problems because debonaires here, if you order takeaway, people order it, and when the delivery is done, they put a gun and the guy must run away, they get the pizza for free. So you've got current practical e-commerce problems. So you've got to think about these things in the future. And then the last point I want to raise, I was invited to a similar event like this. It was for event organizers, right? So it was the big dogs, right? The G's of the sector. Michelle Brown, myself, guys who were doing the technical side,
Yeah,
logistics planning
yeah.
stuff. I said that they did not understand me then. That's why I'm mentioning it now, because we've got a TV audience. Is that what I said then? This is now, I think, 2016. Event organizers must now get on a shift because the events are going to be in our phones. They did not understand me then because I said to them, when we started, we went around putting posters at terminals all over the place. There's Glenn Lewis coming in. You don't have to do that thing anymore.
Yes.
We used to go fighting on that fence in the hospital to put a banner there. You don't have to do those things now. I mentioned those things then This event we are in now, people are watching it as we speak in their devices. You're live streaming it.
yes.
You're putting it on television. So we've got to see what is the curve for ourselves so that we don't consume the products of those who are running with the curve. These are opportunities that we are now creating to say, you are in content. What is the future of content?
Yes.
How are you plugging into that future of content? You are in tourism now, right? Virtual tourism. I sit with my friend, we make a joke about it, Glenda, that we spoke to about the other day.
yeah.
I was in Monaco last week, by the way. Yes, but I was in my house in Gqeberha.
You see there?
Because tourism has moved
Yeah.
to the physical tour guiding of These guys, it's changed. So we've got to now, when we help you to open opportunities, don't tell you about what's happening now, because that you know already.
Yes.
You've got to say, are you aware that, and that? She's going to tell you about metaverse.
Thank you so much, Chair.
I hope it makes sense. I know
yes,
that I'm deliberately not talking a lot about now issues.
Yes,
so
yes.
that I can get everyone to start thinking, what are these stupid things this guy is saying? Yes.
Thank you so much, Chair. And unfortunately, that is how we wrap off. This is how we wrap off the first business Indaba right here at Mendi Art Center on Bizz Talk with myself, of course, Sinazo January, and with my lovely panel right here. But thank you so much. Until the next one in 2022. And hopefully we'll get enough time next time. Thank you so much, though, for watching. And until next time, thank you very much.
Oh, that is so short.
Thank you.